Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of ISB Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always here on this another gorgeous Wednesday. What is it, May 24th?
24th.
Man, I got that right. I can't believe. Appreciate you joining us as we come to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by our good friends and powered by Andy Moore Honda, where you can get the best in new and used vehicles. Just go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door. And the family of restaurants of Endeavor Hospitality in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Marketplace, with a butcher, full-size bakery, incredible, most impressive array of in-house made products, and soon, as in June 1st, the Chop Shop, new steakhouse. Cannot wait to try. Looking forward to that. Hope you are looking forward to the day ahead. Rick Bozich will be here. We've got a few things to talk about. The Indianapolis 500 is closer. Closer as in this weekend. You've got Carb Day on Friday and the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. Of course, we don't want to forget the 600. Is it still the Coke 600 in Charlotte that same day? NASCAR, the big double, 1,100 miles of racing that day. And over at basketball, a little bit of news for Indiana as they bring in Cabra-Chaney back. We'll talk about that and a little bit more than just talk about it, but I don't think that's just a simple staff addition. But Cabra-Chaney back into the IU coaching staff, brought on as the director of player development, leaving the Pacers in his position there. I believe he'll also have to leave his position as vice president of Hoosiers for Good, Indiana's NIL collective, for obvious reasons. If you didn't know, Cabra-Chaney was the vice president of Hoosiers for Good, Indiana's official NIL collective. Let's see. What else are we going to be talking about today? Appreciate everybody hitting us up early and often on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. John W. hitting us up from Brown County. Everyone happy about Cabra-Chaney from an IU standpoint, it looks like. We'll talk about those implications, as a matter of fact. Kenneth? Get up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, hitting us up on YouTube, which you can do is the same always. But make sure you hit that subscribe and notifications toggle. Doesn't cost you a thing, but about 2 seconds. And the like buttons along the way. Comments. I try to get to them all. Sometimes it gets a little too much. JR, how are you? Night. Asking about Cam Spencer. Yep, that's another name that is on the lips of Indiana basketball fans. It would be a perfect fit for Indiana, but that's not what I'm hearing. Carl, keeping us up to date on IU baseball, says they are the winner, or IU baseball in the winner's bracket of the Big Ten tournament after defeating Illinois yesterday 4-3. As the Hoosiers continue to move forward, trying to bolster their NCAA tournament spot. I don't think that there shouldn't be a doubt that they're in the tournament. Boosting that RPI, baby. It means a lot for teams like Indiana because they're not going to get a great draw, what you would call a great draw, no matter what, because they're disadvantaged. They're going to be the most northernmost team that probably, and Carl will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess that Indiana will be the most further north. What am I trying to say? They're the most farthest north team,
or just
they're the furthest northern team, the most northern. Damn it, I can't figure out what I'm trying to say today. They're the team that's the furthest up north that's going to make the tournament. I bet that's happened before, and that shows you the line of demarcation in college baseball, people. If Indiana is the most further north team, look at all those. Think of all those Big Ten teams. They're out. Only Maryland, but Maryland's not north of Bloomington. So it makes a difference. College baseball is definitively a sport that is affected by climate, where you play. Phil pointing out it's the first week left for players to exit the draft, or 1 week left rather. How many players you think are going to leave the draft? There will be enough. Plenty that went in just to like Zach Edey. I think he's one of those that leaves. Who's the? That brings up a good question. Who's the most the biggest name, I guess, that's going to withdraw from the draft? I guess that'd be Zach Edey. Ding. Get it? Biggest name, John? Biggest to withdraw from the draft?
Banana. Right? That's what you want there.
Yeah. See, it's where you're supposed to have that rim shot ready to go. And that wasn't even planned. Exactly. I had another one that was after I said it, I'm like, oh, that's funny. Oh, I know what. While this is Tony Kanon's final Indianapolis 500, Graham Rahal is back in. We talked about him missing it by, what was it, 7 1,000ths of the second. Back in as a replacement driver for Stephen Wilson, who has a fracture in a vertebrae. No pun intended there, Graham. He's back in. Get it? I'm full of them today, man. Rolling with it. How's everybody doing, by the way? It is a beautiful, beautiful week. It is not letting up. Who's going to the 500? Get your butts out. Go, man. This is one of the most Hoosier things to do of the year. And by Hoosier, I don't care if you're a Notre Damer or a Boiler Upper, Butler Boy. It doesn't matter. Talk about the Hoosier state here. This is the most Indiana thing to do besides going to a high school basketball game. or a basketball game, period, for that matter. But this is just a tradition that I didn't grow up with, that I wished I would have. I remember one of my best friends growing up, Chris. His family moved in, Chris Wade, from Indianapolis area. And they were always, and his parents still are, huge fans of the Indianapolis 500. And they brought that with them when they moved down there. But it is such a huge day for a lot of families. It's always a great Memorial Day weekend. It's just such a huge part of Indianapolis, the surrounding, not just it, the surrounding communities. And there are people that make this sojourn every year that are from far away. And it always amazes me. I know I've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, with having the Derby just run a few weeks ago, but being one of the greatest spectacles in all of sports, the Indianapolis 500, the same on a slightly bigger scale, but all right here. If you don't experience these things, and for people, it's, my God, I'm rather parking, it's all the crowds. Grow up. Grow a pair. Get out and enjoy some of the most incredible events a person could possibly do. And it's right in your backyard. Literally. Just plan, people. I promise, if you plan, it'll be a lot easier than you think. This is not their first rodeo. Everybody's not coming in through the same damn gate. Everybody's not parking in the same lot. They got room. They've done this before. So, and I'm not giving the IMS a free plug. It's just these events are incredible. If you haven't been to the Derby, it's something to see. If you have not been to the Indianapolis 500, all of these, before the Kentucky Derby runs, before the Indy 500 runs, the pageantry, it's the feelings that you get. I promise you, when they're playing the songs that they play, I know it sounds a little goofy, but it's the truth, man. These are spectacles that take thousands and thousands of man hours to plan, to put together. So don't waste it. Hoosier things to do. Exactly. Indianapolis 500, the high school basketball state finals, the state fair, mushroom hunting, breaded tenderloins. Okay. Not a bad list. Now, we're going to do that backwards, starting with the breaded tenderloin. Now, I know that this is going to sound like I'm just saying this, but I can tell you right now, without question, I was never a big breaded tenderloin fan because they just, I was like, because usually half the places you get them at, they look like a damn hubcap off of a 73 Buick. Pounded out about that size with a hot dog or a hamburger bun stuck in the middle of it. You ever get that, John?
Well, I haven't had one of those.
You've never had a tenderloin?
Not in the format in which you're describing.
Really? I thought
I'm dead
most
serious.
people made it. That's because they pound them out is what happens, and they make them that end up getting bigger. But anyway, long story short, that's crap if they're like that.
break.
That's so, without question, the greatest tenderloin I have ever had is at Southern Stone Restaurant here in Bloomington. And I'm not saying that because they're a sponsor. It is awesome. And it is beyond. Appreciate you, Jason. Says he loves his shirt. No better vacation spot than Anna Maria Island. You got that right. And when you're there, make sure you hit up the Ugly Grouper. Also, part of the Endeavor Hospitality family of restaurants. So remember that, peeps, when you're down there. I have still yet to make it to the Grouper, and I'm trying to get down there. I'm going to try to get down there this summer. Who's going down? Who will be down there? Let me know if and when you are going to be down around if you're ever traveling that way. And we'll get you set up with some door prizes. And soon, I know I owe Gary McDaniel, by the way, won our March Madness pool. I've still got to get him. We're getting our merchandise in. So it's just been a slow process because we've got so many other things that are important. Hey, we've got to take a quick break. We've got lots more coming up. Rick Bozich is on the show today. We'll see what else we can get scurried up for you. Of course, we're going to be talking about Calbert Cheney back in the IU basketball family as the director of player development. What does that mean? More than just what it sounds, in my opinion. Back with that and much more. Brought to you by our Baby's Market, your butcher, baker, no matter where you live, and soon the Chop Block. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the... I got a splinter.
Oh, no.
Call the police. Call the fire department. EMS. Hey, you could do me a favor and work on somebody else.
I tried to get Dylan Sin to switch, and he hasn't responded to me today. Trying to think of who else would be good to reach out to.
It's not this. Well, yeah, I wish I had a little bit more prevalent, if you know what I mean.
Trust me, I do, but usually those are the harder ones that get short notice.
Well, yeah. All right, so boom, 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 boom. Are these kids still in school?
Who?
These high school kids.
Probably depends on where they live. I know down in Kentucky they're still in school. That's where I'm at, obviously. Just depends. All right, 30 seconds.
Off the Square in Bloomington near Cabello is locally owned and operated by Endeavor Hospitality Group. Launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Well, welcome back. It's a beautiful, beautiful Chamber of Commerce weather day this Wednesday, May 24th. At least here in South Central Indiana. I mean, we're back to this again. I don't know what the hell to call this. What do you?
I think South Central Indiana is a good description.
It's south, but it's south. Yeah, but it's not. It's southeast central of Indianapolis. It's very confusing because there's just you can't divide Indiana into 4 quadrants, which that would make it very easy, except for the fact that would put Terre Haute as well as Tell City in Southwest Indiana. If I say Terre Haute, you're not thinking Southwest Indiana.
You're just thinking Western Indiana. Especially
Central Western.
Any of the inmates been executed recently? I know every time I think of Terre Haute, Indiana, I think of the federal prison.
WTF is the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, what the?
I'm here to bring shock value. That's why I'm here.
And you did, and I don't know why that shocked me because it makes perfect sense. That's something that I would say, but the fact that I don't know why I was surprised. It makes perfect sense.
It is weird though, especially because you've got Indiana State University in that same town as a federal prison. Like that's got to be. It's cool, but very weird to be able to say that you go to school and or live in a town that has death row's prison.
That's a great Kenneth making a great point. I'm glad that U is in the name right there.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm wearing an ugly grouper shirt today. T-shirt. Everybody wants to talk about Calvert Cheney.
Uh-oh.
Before we get to that, here's Carl says he likes to say that Bloomington is in the Hoosier Hills of South Central Indiana. Yeah, well, that's makes sense, and it's that sound. I like the sound of that. Yeah. There's just not a lot else you can say. Either you know where the hell Bloomington is or you don't. And if you don't, you're not a sports fan, eh? But yeah, because I grew up in what I consider Southern Indiana, which is as far south as you can go if you're going down I-65 in Floyd County. Went to Floyd Central, and Floyd Central, New Albany, Jeffersonville, Clarksville, Harrison County, Clark County, Floyd. That's Madison, Scottsburg. Yeah, it's weird. And then where does the line stop going west? For me, I'm like, I don't know. It's, I guess, the further west you live, that matters to them, because you got Santa Claus, Indiana over there. Don't forget about that. which is nice. True or false, he says, only fans complaining about NIL are fans of teams that aren't making the most of it. Yes and no. Part of the fans that are complaining about it are just more the more experienced fans, I guess you would say. I think they have a bigger problem with it because they want it to be like it was in 1976 or 87 or 93 or 4, and it just ain't gonna. That's the one thing. This horse does not walk backwards. Now I'm talking about NIL, transfer portal, etc., etc. I don't have a problem with any of it, except for the fact that they don't seem to have guardrails on the NIL. Now, and by that, I don't mean that players can or should be limited to what they can earn, because you can't. Do you want to be limited in what you can earn? This is a job for them people. Is it not a business? Is Indiana basketball not a huge business? Or college sports not a huge business? Of course they are. Why do you think the Big Ten signed a $7 billion TV media rights deal? Because it's not only a business, but it's a damn good one to be in if you're on the right side. Perfectly. I haven't even read it all yet, and this is already seems to be perfectly surmised. From Carl, there are some people still clinging to the old idea of amateurism, which, in anybody's opinion, I'm going to change it a little bit. Which, in anybody's opinion, who truly follows college athletics, really doesn't mean anything anymore, especially when other people are making money on these players' work. And we're not just talking about coaches making money on these people or these kids. There's an entire business built around each and every college athletics, not every college sport, because the majority of college sports are the benefactor of two sports, mainly football, but you had basketball because of the NCAA tournament. But those two sports pay for everything else. Now, is that the exact case at every school? No. But from a majority standpoint, football is paying the bills, basketball as well, men's basketball, and that's a fact. You want to keep amateurism and those, fine, I don't care. But it hasn't been amateur for a long time. You have any idea the hours that goes in to being a D1 athlete, a D1 elite athlete? Just that part of it. Just the practice, just the rehab, just the nutrition, just the working out, weight training. Oh, I haven't even gotten to school that not only do you have to attend, but you have to maintain a level of grades. So how many of you would like to do your job, go work 8, maybe 9 hours, sometimes 10, travel, and have a full-time load of school with that, studying? Think about that with your job right now. And I know that because that's what it is. It's a job. That's my take on it. Yeah, the amateur. I'm in agreement with Carl. There's amateurs. It's you can label it whatever you want. Robert gets excited. The truth, man. He only wants to hear about news in regards to IU basketball. The truth, baby. Heath asking, does Calvert take Calvert Cheney take Thad Motta's place? You know what? Again, in my opinion, Thad Motta's position was created for him, I think, out of a kindness from Indiana, personally, while he was dealing with his health issues and not able to, at that moment, be a head coach. Of course, now he's gotten past those and is the head coach at Butler. I don't know exactly what Calvert's position will be. I'm not sure. Well, I'm sure that they planned this out, but what all he will be doing, not sure yet. Will he be one of the coaches that can have hands-on? Yes. Kind of hard to develop players if you can't do that. But look on staff right now. On the Indiana men's basketball staff, at no time in its history have you had what they have right now. Mike Woodson, Calvert Cheney, the all-time leading scorer in Big Ten history, and Jordan Hulls, who played on the last team to be ranked number 1 for Indiana. That's a hell of a turnaround by a school who just a couple of years ago had an all-out mandate of nothing to do with Bob Knight when it comes to IU basketball. Again, the athletic department had a mandate that basically Bob Knight was that Indiana basketball was to be purged of Bob Knight and his, not his record, but of him per se. Now it's a swing back all the way around. That's a huge swing, people. But this hire for Calvert, it's got deeper ramifications, in my opinion, which I know that I'm usually the first that'll kind of go out on a limb. I'm not afraid to say it. We'll talk about why. Kenneth says he personally believes that there should be a minimal payment and long-term health care insurance for athletes that participate in schools and programs that bring revenue that support schools, sports that don't. We'll talk about that more as well when we come back. Russell says his job has a ceiling on the high end, but the agents don't know if they have a ceiling. Talking about getting paid. We've got plenty more to talk about. Rick Bozich joins us today. I'm sure he's going to have lots of thoughts on Calvert Cheney. Working on getting Calvert on the show as soon as possible, by the way, of course. We got plenty more coming up. Brought to you by GoTeam, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality family of restaurants. For those on the go, whether it's you, the family, the team, tough to find tasty, healthy snacks that are you can grab on the go. GoTeam Bites are just that. You can pick them up at GoTeamBites.com or go to BB's. They taste great, full of protein powder. Back with more ISB Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
I hate trying to get a splinter out of my right hand with my left hand.
I don't blame you.
Damn it. Ah, damn it. Man. What is this?
All right, 30 seconds.
meal prep that we cook up. The Fresh Fork takes care of all the planning, shopping, and prepping and can even deliver them to your doorstep once a week. That's right, it's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday, May 24th. It is gorgeous. It is going to be unbelievable today. How are you? Hope you are having a great day. Who is planning to go to the 500 this weekend? Curious? Going to Carb Day? Looking forward to I think the crowds are going to be spectacular. And I think everybody's going to look to get out and enjoy that. I'm looking to get out and enjoy it, covering it first and then enjoying it. But it is, I mean, I'm trying to think of a bigger something from a yearly standpoint. I can't imagine anything bigger annually. Well, obviously, from a crowd standpoint, there is nothing. But I'm thinking of all the pageantry that goes with it, the color, the balloons, all of this, the people. And the great thing is it starts at noon. It's over by, 3? So not a bad day. I'm going to be interested to see what the attendance is. While they've aggravated a ton of the people that live in and around the area, I don't think Roger Penske really cares a lot about that. And not that he doesn't care about Indiana people. It's just that he obviously has made a decision of a business model that they're going to follow. He didn't get his name on every Ryder truck because he doesn't know what he's doing. So what's it going to take for them to get to to lift this stupid ban? You don't have that in Louisville for the Kentucky Derby. I mean, it's not even a threat. Now, that used to be the case, I believe, possibly back in the day. It would be way before John could remember. So I'd have to research that. But the reason is, of course, is to try to force those in the immediate area that if they want to see it and not wait for the tape delayed version, which used to be the way of the day back when ABC had it, that they'll come out. Well, if you're going to the track, you're going to the race, you're going to the event. Talked about this with Mike yesterday. You're not sitting at home going, well, it's not on TV, so I reckon I'm going to get up in my car and drive down to Speedway, Indiana. Doesn't work that way. I mean, that's something you plan, man. Well, I mean, yeah, there are lots of people that do things on the spur. More kids, younger people than anything. They're going to be in the snake pit, baby. They're going to be over in turn 4. They're never going to see a car and they won't care about it. So, very interesting. Then, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to ask you who's performing in the snake pit this year.
You know what? I saw it and I forgot. I'm more concerned with getting the splinter out of my hand.
So this has been the day of the splinter. So first of all, let me ask you. I remember when it happened on the show earlier. Did you step on hardwood floor? Is that what caused the splinter? Like what? How did this happen?
It's in my hand. It's in my right hand. It's in my right ring finger.
So
no,
what
it's
did
in
you
my right.
What
it's in my right. I'm sorry. It's in my right middle finger.
So what part of the house attacked you in order for you to get this?
It was not the house. I think I grabbed a handle of some sort, and I felt it, and then I thought I pulled it out. But then yesterday, this also could have come from, there was an older gentleman yesterday looking for a golf ball that I was trying to help, and it was in an area. Well, there was an area where I was out there standing, and I happened to be out there. But it's one of those shrubbery brushes that grows out along the ground, and it's like one of those kind of green prickly brushes.
Yeah,
shrub, but this one is low and it grows out. Anyway, I'm like, once I helped him and I found him one, I'm like, well, it's not yours. He said, oh, it's not mine. I go, hey, man, one in, one out. You lose one, you replace one. It's a wash. Then I'm like, you know what? I never looked in here for balls. I'm like, this has got to be a good spot for them. So I'm in there digging around because I don't need golf balls. I've got hundreds. But it's something about finding good golf balls. Anyway, so I go in there. I pull like a half dozen out, which may sound like a lot. It's not, especially for the scrapes and the scratches that you end up with, and potentially a splinter. So there's that. Getting back to more important things, Fred asking, he'll be there Carb Day as well as race 46th for him coming in from Pennsylvania. How far? I wonder how far from Nazareth, Pennsylvania are you, Fred? I know it over there in Easton. Are you bringing Larry Holmes with you is what I'd like to know. That would be something. Heath asks, is it true D1 athletes don't need as high of ACT scores to get into school? No. Well, that's not a question. You need to ask the bursar. That should not be the case. But I do know that there are things that coaches and academic support staff could probably do to help get athletes into school with particular programs if they have certain credits. There's a lot of different ways to do it. It's basically like if you're applying for a job at a company. The guy that has somebody in there on the inside, all things being equal, has a better shot. That's just life. Again, this has nothing to do with college sports. This is life, people. Again, college sports is just starting to mimic life a lot more. What John does not like about the track, 15 minutes after the race, they were running him out. He wanted to set into the car, it looks like. Well, good luck with that. Jennifer making her first trip. I thank you for the salute, Philip. Fred informs Jennifer he's been going to the track since before she was born. I have not golfed with Fish. I had the chance a few years ago. I passed it up. I didn't feel my game was where it would have needed to be to go out with him. Fred pointing out Nazareth borders Easton. There you go. Nazareth, Pennsylvania, home of one Mario Andretti, and the Andrettis for that matter. How did they end up in Nazareth, Pennsylvania? That's a good question. And yes, we will be talking about Calvert Chaney. Bob Kravitz unexpectedly had to drop out today, so we couldn't get him refilled in time.
You mean Kyle Neddenrip? But Kravitz will be on tomorrow, beginning Thursdays regularly.
Right, but he was going to be on today, but he had to. But yeah, he will join us tomorrow. So, not quite the lineup that we would normally have, especially with a story like this. But we'll be on it tomorrow. But still working on some good things for you, as a matter of fact.
We'll also have a brief return for Jeffrey the Greek this Friday. Haven't heard from him since the fall.
Oh, is that right?
That is right. I confirmed that with him about 20 minutes ago.
Cannot wait to talk about that. We'll get check in to see what's happening in Big Ten football. Been there's been so much noise. The portal has created so much talk post NCAA championship now that there used to be this. It was basically you got through the tournament and you could take a break and take a breather at least. No, that's not the case anymore, because then the damn transfer portal, it's boom. There's no let up. It goes full force all the way through, pretty much through the draft. Once the draft is over, now you've got guys reporting to their new schools. June, school starting for some of these guys. New teams together, practicing together, finalizing rosters, which Indiana will be doing soon. Yesterday, a lot of talk about Cam Spencer. I don't see, from what I'm hearing, Indiana is not in the top 2 or 3, I don't believe. From what and all things change, but Georgetown, which he may very well be from there. I haven't checked that, but Georgetown, possibly in the running for this. And then I was told that both Miami and UConn were getting out the checkbooks, which UConn has you might not have to write as big a checkbook when as you're writing it, you're flashing this big national championship ring. But Miami, not afraid to refill the coffers, obviously, with John Ruiz. Indiana is not going to go all in on this guy, I don't think. And I don't mean him in particular, but I mean whoever fills this role. I think they want to get as good a shooting guard as they can, but I believe that they think they'll be able to get him no matter, or whoever that person ends up being, that they'll be able to fill that spot without having to exhaust as many resources. Will the addition of Calbert Chaney help? We'll see. We shall see. The truth says put his candy apple pants. I guess that meant on today. And you know that's candy stripe pants, bro. Truth. He says Indiana's back and they're going to the Final Four. Spirit of Bobby Knight is back. And blue is something. Oh, I think we will have to have you on sometime, Truth. That would be an absolute joy. That would be an absolute joy. And we appreciate the Truth as well as everybody else. But Truth down in Evansville area, of course, where you can find us on the RAF 97.7 ESPN, always the right call. Big shout out to our friends down there. Thankful to everybody up at 12:30 a.m. and 104.7 FM WJLB, the voice of the region up in Hammond and Chicago. And we're about a week away from joining 1380 The Fan up in Fort Wayne. Any of you that live up in that area will be on the airwaves up there soon. And that will, showtime up there will be 4 p.m. each day. Derek pointing out that Cam Spencer's from Davidson, Maryland, which I'm going to assume that's not too far from Georgetown at all. So that's the only reason I can see, besides Georgetown being an incredibly good school, he only has 1 year left. Maybe it's something to do with his studies. Georgetown, like I said, a great school. Kenneth says, I agree with Jim. IU is not going to give top money just to be a shooter, and I don't think he wants to be the fourth option on a team. I don't think they need to give top money on that. But, hey, we've got to take a break. Don't forget, we're brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore. For those of you in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It can be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Or if you're down in the southern Indiana area, Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott counties, all down that way, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services have served those communities for over 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the All right, I texted what I thought was Jakai's mom.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I'm getting ready to send you an email.
Okay.
It's 9:30 now.
Are they coming on right now?
No, just hold on. Let me see.
All right, 30 seconds to. Well, I'll send the link to whoever it is that you send the email link to, or email is to me.
I've already sent it to them.
Oh, so they have the link?
I just sent it to them. I'm waiting to see if they can come on.
Okay.
With a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It is a gorgeous day, and Indiana fans are happy. Indianapolis 500 fans are happy. I've got a splinter in my finger, and John W. suggests is cutting it off John Wick style. Yeah, we're not there yet. How's everybody doing? Thoughts on Calbert Chaney joining Indiana's staff? Obviously, it's a good thing for Indiana. He's the all-time leading scorer in Indiana history, in Big Ten history. He played, 12, 13 years in the NBA. He has spent time in the Pacers organization. Coaching is what he wants to do. And I'll say it first. I think that Indiana just hired their next coach. There were some former players that wanted him to get it the last time it was available. And this puts him on the track. He's been on staff at IU before under Tom Crean, but he's gone out and gotten different experiences now at the professional level, on the NIL level, as just recently being, and as of yesterday, vice president of Hoosiers for Good, Indiana's official NIL arm. Of course, he'll have to relinquish that position because of conflict of interest, obviously. Yes, absolutely. That is exactly. Kenneth sent us, hits us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, likely grooming as a successor, question mark. That is exactly what that is going to be. And that will, now things always change, as we know, but that would put to bed thoughts of Michael Lewis, whom at one point I thought he was the heir apparent. That Dusty May. There are a ton of guys out there that are under this tree that are coaching. But very few get the call. You know, I've told this before, but do you know who the first, and you'll Google this and find out, but I'm not going to give you the time. In the vast history of Indiana basketball, they have had one, two, three, four. I'm thinking four. Am I losing? Coaches that five. In Indiana's history of coaches, basketball, only five have not been IU graduates. Do you know who the first was? I'll give you a hint. They came in succession of each other. That first coach that was not an IU grad, that was Bob Knight. That's right. Bob Knight was the first IU basketball coach that was not an IU grad, which was followed by Mike Davis, which was followed by Kelvin Sampson, which was followed by Tom Crean, which was followed by the darkness, what I call the dark period in Indiana basketball. But now they've gone, and that was because, as I spoke earlier, a direct reason, a directive from IU Athletics to get away from Bob Knight, to get the program away from Bob Knight. Now it's done a complete 180. And they are embracing and hugging and getting as much of it in as they can. Now, Jordan Hulls counts under the Bob Knight tree. Do you know why? Because his grandfather was on Bob Knight's staff when he came from Army to Bloomington. That is why and how the Hulls came to be living in Bloomington some 50 odd years ago, way before Jordan was born. So all three of these former Hoosiers now are deeply dyed in the Bob Knight tree. Even though Jordan didn't play under him, his grandfather coached with him. Philip asking, Calbert Chaney or Dusty May, who would you rather have as coach? Or are you asking me? Well, I'll be honest. Calbert doesn't have a track record as far as, of course, didn't he coached the it was the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, wasn't it? So, but his track record is not as evident. But that's still a question and it's not about Dusty May is obviously a damn good college basketball coach, period. The man's got a Final Four on his resume. How many Final Fours does Matt Painter have on his resume? Not picking on Matt Painter, but just saying. A lot of guys out there don't have that. Lots of guys. But Calbert has a lot of other things behind him. He played the game. He played it at an unbelievably high level. The game has changed. Dusty May obviously is extraordinarily successful in how he coaches. It's a different style. I'd be fine with either, but I can tell you which one is going to make more hay. I can tell you which one is going to draw more attention. I can tell you which one is going to get the attention of players' fathers. Now, players today, they see Dusty May because he just went to the Final Four. But the fathers of these players, well, they know Calbert Chaney from playing 12, 13 years in the NBA, being the all-time leading scorer in the NBA or in the Big Ten, yada, yada. So it's not about who I would rather have coach. I don't have a dog in the fight. Now, if you're asking me who do I think would be the better coach, I don't know. I don't. Nobody does. And if they think that they do or say that they do, they don't know what the hell they're talking about because they haven't seen Calvert coach in this arena, this particular arena. We've seen Dusty. Well, let's see. He can get to a Final Four with a group of players that probably were not high on the list of most Power 5 teams. So he's got that going for him. But he's not the all-time leading scorer in the Big Ten. He didn't play all those years in the NBA. He has the skill. He knows how to do it. He played for Bob Knight. There's a lot of learning that goes on there. A lot of learning. I guarantee you, he still has his 4 years worth of notebooks. Trying to pull up. See, there we go. We were talking about career points in the NBA yesterday, too. Remember that? Talking about Mike DeCourcy talking about how big a deal it was for Carmelo Anthony to have over 28,000 points. Calvert played in the NBA from 1993 until 2006, 13 seasons. He averaged just under 10 points a game and has 7,826 points. Roughly 20,000 less than Carmelo Anthony. That just shows you how exceptional Carmelo was. My goodness. But as a coach, he was an assistant at St. Louis from 2013 to 2016. Then he left for the next 2 years for the Erie Bayhawks, College Park Skyhawks. I think that's G League. And then in 2020, he joined the Pacers as their assistant to the director of player development. Here today in 2023, he is named the director of player development for Indiana. Now, when he was back at Indiana, what was his exact position? Director, he was the DBO, director of basketball operations, which followed the following year, the title of director of internal and external player development was added. So kind of held this position before, but it has changed, as has college basketball. John Pence says Indiana basketball is on the rise. Yes, they are. And they're doing it the right way. Yeah, Carl pointing out that when I was talking about the 5 successive Indiana head coaches that were not IU grads, with Dockage sprinkled in as an interim after Kelvin, but I didn't count him because he was an interim coach. But yes, he was definitely in there. Yeah. Oh, where did that go? Right. The Truth said he was an assistant coach at St. Louis with me. That's right. How could I forget, John? Jamie asked, who would you rate as the best 3 current coaches that don't have a Final Four on their resume? Oh, man. Gee whiz. Well, first of all, why don't you give me a list? Give me a list of 10 or something so I don't figure out who all has been to the Final Four or not. And I'll quickly give you my 3 out of that real fast. But, and by best, how best can they be if they haven't made it to a Final Four? But we got to talk about timeline. Forrest! School's out, baby. Forrest says Woody is definitely taking the program in a great direction. You have to say one thing without equivocation, and that is a fact that things have gone in that direction. In recruiting, in court success, basically in every way, it has trended upwards. We've got to take a break. Don't forget, Metalworks Brewing Company, served in all of the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Also, you can stop by right off of the square and on 6th Street in Bloomington. We're back with the great Rick Bozich right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it
Welcome, Rick.
Hi, what's going on?
Hey, Richard, how are your second to last place White Sox doing?
They're only 5.5 games out of first.
I know. They're doing much better than my last place Reds.
Yeah, the Reds are they losing to the Cardinals? Is that the latest?
No, they're losing there, any and everybody. Hell, the Cardinals were up to third last I checked.
Yeah, they're playing well.
Oh, the Cubs had fallen. Yeah, the Cubs were had fallen down to right in front of the Reds. They were maybe tied.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What else is new?
Oh, nothing. Indiana hired some dude for
What's he really going to do?
Man, I don't know. I don't know what Jordan Hulls really does, to be honest with you. And he's the director of recruiting.
I would think Hulls would just be a guy who would make sure they know where all the events are and where guys are going to play. And
but he goes out some. I do know he goes out some.
Yeah, he did. He went out both weekends in April when Woodson was on the show.
But I think you can only have 4 guys out, right?
At once, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then that'll be a role that obviously that he can quote unquote coach players. What is it? 6 now?
Yeah, I think it is. It's crazy.
But only 4 at the same time, because God forbid what those extra 2 coaches would do. Shooting free throws or, oh my God.
I guess part of it is, though, that not every school can afford to have that many coaches.
There's that. My take, and I didn't go off on it too big earlier, but this is the prime for the next head coach at IU. You know, I've already gone through thinking Michael Lewis, Dusty May had a great run. Nope. Done. It's all put to bed. Things change, I get, but this is exactly what this is. I don't think that there's any doubt. He would not have left the Pacers for a job that he does not see a trajectory to where he wants to be, and that's the head coach. And
oh, you think Calvert's going to be coaching waiting? Interesting.
All right, here we go, guys.
With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
welcome back.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Wednesday. Thank you very much for being a part of it. As always, we appreciate you so much. Just like we appreciate Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Always a joy. Rick, I am dealing with some surgery here, trying to get this splinter out of my finger that I have had no success the entire duration of the show.
All right, those aren't very annoying.
Yeah.
How'd you get a splinter?
Well, this one may have been off of a handle, but I also went into some bushes after some golf balls yesterday, and always a stupid move, always a dumb move. Of course, the big news out of Bloomington, Calbert Cheney back in the IU basketball family and on staff. Previously under Tom Crean, he was the DBO, Director of Basketball Operations. Most recently, he has been, for the last 2 years, the assistant to player development in the NBA for the Pacers. And now he has taken that position for Indiana. And that's a big for Indiana in a lot of ways. It brings the all-time leading scorer in the Big Ten back. It brings a favorite son back. And more importantly to me, it puts the heir apparent in a seat at Bloomington already for Mike Woodson. So laid all that on you.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me before we got started. I'm not convinced that Calbert Cheney would be the heir apparent. I'm not convinced that A, I don't know him well enough to know if that's what he wants to do, and B, I'm not convinced that they're going to. And I know that Louisville would hire a guy as the head coach who has no head coaching experience. But I'm glad that he's back on board. He knows the program as a player. He knows the program as a coach. He's got great interpersonal relationship skills. And it brings him back to a place where he and Mike Woodson are probably, as a pair, the two most acclaimed Indiana players that weren't part of national championship teams. So maybe they can get one as coaches that they couldn't get as players. How's that?
Well, and you add Jordan Hulls to that mix, who played on the last team to be ranked number 1.
Right.
But is also still a part of the Bob Knight coaching tree via his grandfather, who came to Bloomington from West Point with Bob Knight. So now you had all these years where Indiana purposely went away from Bob Knight, went away from anybody related to Bob Knight. And that's why I mentioned Bob Knight was the first coach at Indiana that was not an IU graduate. And then there were 5 in succession, not counting Dan Dockage's interim turn with Davis, Sampson, Crean. There was, I'm missing
Archie.
somebody. The dark period. That's just the dark period.
There's
just 4,
but that's okay.
Is it just 4? But anyway, yeah. But the point is they did that and with purpose, and now it's a 180. And not only is it a 180, man, they're going to load up. You've got Mike Woodson. Now you're going to have Calbert Cheney, and you have Jordan Hulls, who not only you're talking 3 different generation of Indiana fans as well, generations, fans of the late 70s, 80. Then you go up to Calbert in the 90s with those great teams, and then Jordan Hulls in the 2000s. So they're covering a big swath of fans as well with that, which I didn't think about, and I don't think that had anything to do with it. But it's a nice broad reach. Indiana has done a lot of things wrong in the last several years, but they've been doing some things right, it seems.
Yeah. And don't forget that Scott Dolson's a former IU basketball manager on the last national championship team. So that
maybe that's why the reason that they're starting to do some things right.
Yeah. I think enough time has passed from the night firing, and he's reconciliated with the university enough that I think they have no longer run from his past and his dismissal from IU. And I think it's always good to have former players around in various roles because they understand the demands of the job. They understand the psychology of the job. They understand the expectations of the job, and they understand the traditions of the job, and they don't run from that stuff. And that's good because it's very important to a lot of fans in so many different ways. It might not be to recruits, and there's always a balancing act between doing what's best for recruits, but fans do pay the bills, and fans do support the program at a very high level. I saw you went back on top in the Big Ten this year in attendance, and people like to see Jordan Hulls on the bench. They're going to like to stand and give Calbert Chaney an ovation when he comes back. Next week, if they bring him to Hubers, he'll get another standing ovation. So, as you mentioned, 3 different eras. Woody was 76 to 80, Calbert was 89 to 93, and Jordan Hulls was 2009 to 2013. So they can all share their stories about Indiana basketball to the current players.
Well, and plus you have Mike Woodson had a 10-year run as a player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how long I don't have his Wikipedia pulled up, how long his coaching career was.
Yeah, I think he was a head coach for about 8 years.
And then an assistant for another couple. So another decade basically coaching in the NBA. You've got Calbert Chaney with his 13-year NBA career, 5 years coaching. Jordan Hulls, while not playing in the NBA, he had a very, very successful career overseas and only left to take this job. So that's something that all of the guys that they're recruiting can see. These guys are players, so they know what it takes to play at a high level and to play it at the place where they want to be, which is the NBA.
And I think for a lot of them, their biggest value is relating to the parents. The kids might not really, I'm sure they don't remember Woodson or
oh no, it's funny you say this. I just said this earlier. I said, even with Calbert, I said, now the kids aren't going to know who he is, but the fathers will know who Calbert is.
And the grandfathers. And what's even more important that is that those guys, I think, relate well to parents and can get their trust to get them on board, to trusting them to send their children to be with that coaching staff, where they can explain to them, you can get great basketball coaching a lot of places. You can get great facilities a lot of places. You can play against great competition in a lot of places. But if you come to Indiana and you do what you're supposed to do, it is the payoffs last a lifetime. People will remember you for the rest of your life. And you'll be honored. You might have a chance to come back and work at the university or find a job in the Bloomington area. And other schools sell the same thing. I mean, Duke sells that, Kentucky sells that, everybody sells that. And I think at times at Indiana, that's one of the things that kind of got off track during the coaching turnovers. But now there's more of a sense of a unity among the different generation of guys, and you can sell that and say, there's a lifetime of benefits to come here and play basketball.
And it's funny. I think that, and I know that there's going to be certain fans that disagree, but those are just Bob Knight fans. But I think that most parents today would not want their kid to play for Bob Knight. But I think most kids today would want their kid to play for somebody who played for Bob Knight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I basically agree with that. I mean, Coach Knight would have had to change his ways to survive in today's environment.
And that was never going to happen.
Probably not. He's a smart enough guy, though, that he would have had to know if he was going to have a career, he's going to have to change his ways early on. He would have had to. But I agree with you. I mean, you can keep a lot of the good parts of Coach Knight that get overshadowed and forgotten because of some of his antics, and those are still valuable traits to carry forward. And I think that these guys will help do that. In terms of look at Buckner, who's the chairman of the board of trustees. Look at Scott May, who's one of the most successful businessmen in Bloomington. Look at Mike Woodson, who's now the IU coach. Look at what Wayne Radford was at Cook Incorporated. John Kamstra is either first or second in command at Cook Incorporated. He was a former IU basketball player. Steve Reen was a dentist. John Laskowski's a businessman in Bloomington. I can go on and on. That these guys, Ted Kitchell,
the guy from Clarksville,
Chuck Franz, Jimmy Cruz. I mean, I can go on and on with a lot of these guys' success. I mean, Cody Zeller is going to be a success, and no matter what he does.
Calbert Cheney this is actually where I was going with this, and Kenneth hit my point. Calbert is one of the guys you never heard anything bad about, but most of these guys, hardly any of them do you hear bad things about. They take care of business. They are good kids. We're good kids. They're good people. They do good things. And that's what I meant by, I think most parents would love for their kids to play for somebody who played for Bob Knight. While he instilled the things that they all love, they may not have all liked how it got there, but sometimes you don't like to see how the sausage is made, man. But certain things have to be done to make the sausage. But Indiana getting to this point now of this is Calvert is also, this is a reaction to trying to find a way to bring kids in to give them another reason to choose IU because it is becoming, it's more and more difficult. I mean, it doesn't matter how good a kid is, like the Cam Spencer kid. He's got other options because maybe he's got the 1 year left. Maybe his particular point of study, Georgetown, which is a great school, has that one program. I'm going to go do that because I'm not playing pro ball the rest of my life. So it's just another way of Indiana bringing in this higher elite level of recruit, which they are starting to do now. But that is something that has to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Cam Spencer's looking for. A guy that waits this late in the process. I mean, I would think he's pretty savvy, supply and demand. There aren't many guys left. He's got a skill that's very desirable, and he's calling the shots now. I mean, there's one of him and a lot of schools that need him, and I don't know what it is. He's looking for an NIL deal. He's looking for a chance to win an NCAA championship. He's looking for a chance to play more minutes close to home. I don't know what on his list of things that are important to him to make the decision, but what Indiana can do if they are recruiting him, and I guess they've contacted him, is to sell a chance to be, part of the basketball family and, be on a good team.
Absolutely. Cabro chiming in. Oh, daggone it. What do you say? Hi, Rick. Hope things turn around for your Chi Sox. Listen, Mr. Mets boy. What's he talking about?
We don't have an $800 million payroll. Didn't the Mets just lose to some dog team last night?
They lost a series to the Reds, I can tell you that. So, Cabro was just on with us yesterday. Thank goodness. I'm trying to look real quick to see where his they're in second place. They're 4.5 games back. Not too bad.
Behind the Braves?
Who isn't behind the Braves? I mean, they're 5 games.
They lost to the Cubs. That's who they lost to. They're 1 game over 500. So
1 game over 500, losing to the second to last place Cubs in the second, the worst division in baseball. You might be able
to say they're underachieving at a level close to the White Sox. I mean, the White Sox, how many games out of the Mets? 4?
How many games? The Mets are 4.5 games back.
Yeah, the White Sox are only 5.5 games out of first, as bad as they played. How about that?
And the Mets are barely one game over 5. Then you have the American League East that everybody's over 500. How crazy
Well,
is
they've
that?
got a negative run differential with that team. They've wasted a lot of money on two pitchers who are old and way past
negative. Wow, second place in a negative run differential. That's something.
So now that we've made Kevin Brockway angry, what do we want to talk about next?
Yeah. He says second place is first loser, baby. He says we have our own problems. Second place is first loser.
I'm ready for a White Sox rebuild, so I don't really care what happens.
Not to get away from IU basketball because I'm going to get back there, but
sure.
I'll bring this up later about the Reds. All right, Cal. How big is this? What do you see that this does for Indiana? Bringing in Calvert, bringing him back in, bringing him in now where college basketball is at this particular moment. Now, he was also the vice president of Hoosiers for Good, Indiana's official NIL collective, which I assume that he's relinquishing that title just because of the conflict of interest. But what does this bring to Indiana?
You know, I think the biggest benefits are he's a guy that can talk to players with authority about what it takes to be successful at the college level, at the NBA level, to get in the league, to stay in the league, and to be successful in the rest of your life. He's a guy I think who would relate, as I said earlier, very well to parents. He's a guy I think who can be a unifier among the fan base with the former players, getting them back on board. But in terms of having any huge impact, I mean, he was there before under Tom Crean. I'm not sure it had a huge impact. It's just a piece of the puzzle. So, you know, and I don't really know what he's going to be able to do, how they're going to be able to use him, how much on-floor coaching is he going to be able to do. But it's similar in some ways to the move that Louisville made, bringing Milt Wagner on board, where Milt Wagner can talk to the current guys about, hey, this is what I went through when I was here. I broke my foot. I had to sit out a year. It was frustrating, but I kept working hard, and I came back one extra year. We won a national championship, and Coach Crum got on me because I didn't do this, but I learned not to take it personally. I learned to listen to what he was saying to me. So Calvert has that kind of personality that I think that young people will listen to what the message is. And, you know, over the course of a season, guys have times of discouragement. I think Calvert would be a great guy. If I was a player, I'd say, Calvert, can you help me out, or can you meet me in the gym and show me what I'm doing wrong and help me fix it? That's what I think.
And the fact that he literally just came from the NBA, as in yesterday.
Right. He knows what it's like.
Well, and he knows who today's players are. He's in tune with today's players, which that will gap a bridge back to Woodson's guys, because he's not that far removed either. We just saw Carmelo Anthony retire, who Mike Woodson has a very, very strong relationship with. They've offered his son. Mm-hmm. I guess the hiring of Calvert puts to bed any thoughts of potentially hiring Carmelo Anthony as in a role. Not that he needs the money, but man, wouldn't that be something if something happened and then you add a Carmelo Anthony? That's a game. That would be a game changer.
Yeah, after all this time in New York and LA, I don't see Carmelo Anthony living in Bloomington, Indiana, but we'll see. I don't see that happening.
I think he would be what you call one of the what does Mike have a plethora of consultants?
Consultants. I mean Randy Whitman and those dudes?
Yes, I think that he would just be a nice consultant for them. But this, I talked about it earlier, but this gives the Indiana bench now, or just two guys, 23 years of NBA playing experience.
Well, don't forget Armand Hill's another one. I mean, he didn't play at IU, but Armand Hill was in the league for a long time, so he has NBA experience.
I forgot. How long did he play?
Oh, I don't know. I'll look right now. I bet he played close to a decade.
And then let's see. Mike had 15 years of coaching experience in the NBA, whether assistant or as a head coach with various teams. That's
Now, Armand Hill played from 76 to 84, so he played 8 years.
damn,
And
he
he
doesn't
also
seem.
he
He
coached
has
in the
not
league.
seen that. He's older than Mike Woodson.
Yeah, he's 70. He
Oh,
coached in the
sorry.
league for 17 years.
I was not thinking of Armand Hill. I was thinking of Hunter, the assistant coach.
Kenya Hunter.
Kenya
No,
Hunter,
Armand Hill's
yeah.
the guy that sits right next to Mike's right side.
Yeah,
He
yeah. Oh, yeah,
didn't
yeah.
sail a whole lot, but he's Mike's guy from the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, yeah, and we didn't mention the fact that, well, you just awfully mentioned it, but Randy Whitman got a little NBA experience himself as a player, as a coach. So,
Yeah. And there's another guy I can't remember his name. He was around quite a bit during the tournament. Who's a former NBA assistant coach. He's part of that little group that helps Woody with stuff.
The white-haired guy.
Yeah, the taller guy.
That no one can ever remember his name. Every time I'm up to I'm like, what's his name?
Right.
And it's a very tight circle. They kind of keep it tight. Tight.
Yeah,
Keep
they
it
do.
tight. But so that's the biggest change right now is Indiana waits to finish their roster. We talked about Cam Spencer. From what I'm hearing, he's Georgetown lean. I was also told that UConn and Miami had reportedly gotten the checkbooks out as well. So Indiana, I do not see them getting involved in that race. I think they want, well, obviously they want somebody for that position, but they're not going to. They've already got the guys they're going all in on, I think. And they still need. They have to get a shooter. For them to be as successful as they can be. If they were to go forward as they are right now, I think they would be okay, and they're going to win games.
I mean, they're going to need Gunn or Banks or Mbako or Galloway or
somebody
Leo
has to fill that role.
Step up and be a legitimate 3-point threat. Somebody's going to have to do.
And we don't know that Ja'Kai Newton or CJ Gunn can't do that because I know they both have the ability because we've seen them do that. So we'll find out. Up in Chicago, Trace Jackson Davis shooting some 3-pointers. Speaking of shooting threes, all the talk about him just knocking it down and having this great game from 3 range. And yesterday we were talking, if he would have, he would have used it while he was in college for people who think that he could always do that. But what are the chances of him developing that now? Not necessarily just a 3-point shooter, but just a shot. He's got to have a shot.
I don't see it happening because it never happened in 4 years at IU. I'm not sure he was always told not to do it, but it certainly seemed like the last couple of years he was encouraged to do it. And for whatever reason, he seemed reluctant to ever do it. He had a tremendous amount of success playing the way he played, but man, he could have really expanded his game, and he knew what other big guys were doing, and he just never seemed like he had the confidence or the comfort level to go outside and shoot shots. And we've seen his free throw shooting. It got better, but when he's at the line, he didn't look like a guy who was comfortable shooting threes. It was an amazing contrast because in many ways, I'd say Jackson Davis had a better shot than Race Thompson, but Race Thompson had no hesitation jacking up threes, right?
Never.
It was
any opportunity.
He had to have self-control not to take a few of them. He loved that. I'd like to go back and watch a film of every Indiana game last year and see how many of them started with a Race Thompson 3 in the first 2 or 3 possessions. I'd bet at least 7 or 8 games, right? I mean, he liked to take that 3 from the top of the key. But, Trace could have done that, but he never did. So I don't have any reason to believe he's going to do it as he goes up in competition. Will be guarded by better guys and feeling more pressure. I mean, he's in a situation he's never been in his life where he's going to have to prove that he can play. He didn't have to really do that in college. I mean, he knew
he's got to play up. He's got to play up now. And he's always been bigger, stronger. He's the guy when you're in Little League Baseball and you're 12, the kid that looks like he's 15. He's always been that kid. So
he's the guy who's, he's the junior coming up from the JV to the varsity and proving he needs to make the varsity. That's what he is.
He gave up more threes than he made, I promise you.
The key to him is going to be going to a place that really wants him and envisions a role for him and will create an opportunity for him. That's going to be the key. If he goes somewhere where they don't really have a plan for him, it's going to be a struggle. But if he goes to a coaching staff and a GM administration that say, these are his strengths, these are his weaknesses, this is how we can maximize his strengths because he can really do these things, then I think he will make it. And he's going to probably, let's be honest, he's going to probably be spending some time going back and forth to the G League. He probably is.
I agree with that. I was asked this question earlier. I'm going to let you go, but they want to be asked quick. Who are the top coaches that do not have a Final Four? And here's a quick list. I said, well, just give me a list of guys that haven't been besides Matt Painter. Mike Bray's no longer a coach. Greg McDermott is no longer a coach. Ed Cooley is he still coaching? Jamie Dixon still coaching, or is he in New Mexico now?
No, he's at TCU.
TCU, rather. Well, I mean, everybody's going to put Matt Painter up there, but that's not a very big group to choose from. But
all right, so let me just go. I'll just read down. You got Nate Oates, you got Matt Painter, you got Tommy Lloyd, you got Randy Bennett of St. Mary's. Sean Miller's got to be on the list. He's never been to a Final Four. Let's see. Eric Musselman's never been to a Final Four.
I think he's going to change that.
Right. Well, Bruce Pearl went to one. Buzz Williams never been to one. Brad Underwood's never been to one. Fran McCaffrey's never been to one. He's never even been to Elite Eight.
Fran McCaffrey.
Juwan Howard. There we go. Chris Holtman. There's another one. And now we're getting down into the nitty gritty down below. So those are private. Greg Gard. There's another one.
Need a break.
We've got to take a break. Rick, I appreciate you, my friend. I hope you have a great weekend. It's going to be beautiful. Sit back and enjoy the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday.
All right. As long as they're not conflicting with the White Sox, I will.
Well, let's hope that that's not the case. Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer from WDRB.com.
I'll talk to you next Wednesday, then I'll see you next Wednesday night, right?
Yes. Oh, that's right. I meant to mention that. Huber's next week. We'll get to talk to Mike Woodson, Tom Allen, of course, Terry Morin as well. But
maybe Calvert.
We'll see. Maybe Calvert. And, the question will be coming in regards to the Kentucky series, where that stands. Because they have to have come to some sort of place now just because of scheduling. I was thinking it was going to replace the Kansas game. So we'll see.
Right. Okay.
Maybe we will. Have a great one, buddy. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Hall of Famer. Back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat. Brought to you by Hoosier Hank and Hank's Pizza Mac, where you can get pizza, Mac bowls, Todd bowls delivered 812-330 all zeros. Located at 1280 North College. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market Who was the coach at Wichita? Wasn't he the coach at
Greg
Wichita
Marshall.
State? Oh, I'm
No,
thinking
you're
of
thinking of
Greg
Greg
Marshall.
Marshall.
Damn it, yeah. McDermott's at Creighton, isn't he? Michael's asking, who is JTP?
I guess he wasn't around for the inception. That's just shortened for John the producer. That's what the chat just started shortening my name to after I was around here long enough.
I did that.
No, actually, you know what I think actually how it started? Whenever I used to send comments, if it was from me, I used to put -JTP so they would know it was me and not you.
Right. I gave you the name John the producer.
Yeah, you gave me the full title. Yeah.
Well, shoot.
We'll have about three-ish minutes when we come back.
Hey,
Tomorrow
what?
will be the opposite of today. We'll be loaded with guests.
See, that's what I was effing getting ready to say because of somebody I might be able to get on, and that doesn't include somebody else I might be able to get on.
Maybe if you want to do them Friday, just give them one of Alec Bussey's segments so you don't have to do Alec twice.
Okay, so first of all, tomorrow, give it to me.
8:50 Matt Taylor, 9:10 Bob Kravitz, 9:30 Dylan Sin, and 9:50 Chris Denary. I mean, you can give him a 10-10 if you want. I know you don't like to do that sometimes. And then Friday, for now.
I hate having. Now, is Bob going to be permanent at that spot?
Actually, I don't think so. Just for tomorrow, because he just texted me earlier. He said he needed a change after tomorrow.
Okay, good, because I don't like having somebody behind him.
Okay. All right, we got 20 seconds. Had to get a cough out of my system. All right,
Wait, who's on at 9:10?
Here, we can discuss this at the end of the show. We're almost done.
Quality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hobbs' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is a gorgeous Wednesday, and it's going to stay that way all day. It's going to stay that way all week. Nothing to do with me. I just like to take credit for it. Michael asking ISB Radio with Jim Coyle, where are you going to be doing the show at on Carb Day? Good question. Very good question. I'll know more about that before the show that morning. Probably might be upstairs in the media center, but that is all dependent upon signal downstairs. If we could do it down, that would be the optimum, but we'll find out. We shall find out. Looking forward to it. It is going to be I just thinking about the sun, all of these colors of the cars. Carb Day at the Indy 500 is what Oaks Day used to be at the Kentucky Derby for the locals down there. Carb Day is a big locals day. Big fun. Looking forward to that, as we are looking forward to tomorrow's show. Just going through that, John Boy. Matt Taylor joining us.
Yes, sir. Bob Kravitz.
Bob Kravitz, Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette.
And Chris Denary.
And then Chris Denary. Man, we are loaded.
1 minute.
We're not done because there's always a possibility for more, if not having to move them to Friday. Working on getting not only Calvert on, but trying to get Ja'Kai Newton on. We'll get him scheduled. What a fun day. Because it was beautiful. Because we're with you, beautiful people. Cannot wait to do this again tomorrow. We'll be much busier with Matt Taylor and Bob. And Bob has been out to the track, checking that out. Heading up to the NBA draft. Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? And more on Calvert Chaney joining Indiana's staff. Looking forward to that as well. I can't thank you guys enough. Big thanks to Rick Bozich from WDRB.com for joining me today. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. But we're going to be back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.